Thank you so much for joining us on the Dwelling Show. I'm your host, Ola Dantes. I've got Mike Ealy with us today. He is a legend. I have been waiting for this show. He is definitely one of a kind. I'm super excited to have him on the show. I cannot wait to get in. So, Mike, thank you for joining the show.
Thank you, Dantes. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, let's jump right into it, right? Can you kind of tell us your story, who you are, how you got started in real estate, and kind of what you're up to right now? I know, we talked a little bit before the show, and you're kind of on track to hit 70 million in transactions just before the end of this year. You were crushing it. So, just kind of give us a quick overview.
Yeah, so started off, man, probably early 2000. Started buying single family homes and got up to about 20 units, had 2 full service car washes, and was making about $300,000-400,000 a year. I know you don't believe it with the hair, but I had hair down to my shoulders, rocking it out. And then I lost it all, even the hair. And literally I moved in with my mom and dad, wasn't expecting it. They painted my room pink and lavender, and they had these embroidered flowers all in, and they still had my whole bed growing up. Bed, it was a twin bed, and like the steer or rudder for a boat, that was my headboard. I'm 30 years old, back at home, man, broke, and they paying my bills. And then we just started all over again, man. And I tested out with some college buddies. I actually said, look, man, I got this down. Let's try it out. So we bought 2 or 3 properties with their funds. All I did was take a management fee and a commission fee. And then I got it up and running, put one on the land contract, flipped the other. And, in a matter of months, I made each one of them like a $30,000 profit. At that point, I knew I had it. Got a line of credit from an investor who found me. Just happened we started talking. Next thing you know, he gave me $200,000, and then we were off to the races.
Wow. I mean,
lately we just got into apartments and hotels. I mean, I'm speeding it up, but 10, 15 years later, we're almost doing 70 million in 1 year. So it's been a great ride.
First and foremost, I mean, that is so funny that your room was painted pink and lavender. I was just like cracking up. I was on mute, but I was just laughing. I could not hold it in. So, if somebody had come into your room then, with all the pink and lavender and said, Mike, you're going to be like, closing about 70 million in like a 15 years. Would you believe that?
Oh, man, I can tell you, man, every day I just kept dreaming and telling myself, no matter what it was, I got me a big, nice truck, and I'm going to have me $1 million home. And I literally wrote out on a check $5 million to Mike Ealy. And I just kept pushing it. And, finally, those checks are actually being cashed. And so it's so exciting. I knew I was going to be there. I had no idea how. And then when it happens, you're like, oh, it's really happening. I can't believe it.
Right.
It's so exciting, man. So exciting.
Yeah. So definitely, I love the fact that, you talked about, you started with single families, you had the car wash. I could not miss the hair. Anybody listening to this on on Apple Podcasts, you gotta go on YouTube and check out this video and check out Mike's hair, at the moment. But you were saying something very fascinating. I had to just touch on that. You lost everything, and then you, like you said, moved in back with your parents. If there's somebody listening to this and, maybe they're in their 30s or maybe just before 30 and they're thinking, I've got nothing, I'm living with my mom, I'm broke, I don't know what to do, I don't have any money. What would you say to that person?
Man, you got to believe, when I went through that process, without a doubt, I don't regret it, but I do not want to go through that again. But you got to take steps and really find yourself. And then, but one thing I started studying, I read every book I can get my hands on, whether it was from religion to politics to planting to strong, powerful people. It was the same principles. Treat others how you want to be treated, and all you have to do is believe. And if you believe, you're probably right. And if you say you can't, you're probably right. And so I said I had nothing to lose. So I was believing for a truck. I was believing for multi-million-dollar deals. And we're doing it, brother.
Okay, cool. So I really like what you said though about you spoke with a few of your friends, right? And you got like 2 to 3 houses. Can you kind of walk us through that story? How did you get how did you convince your friends to kind of, jump on this real estate investing, game with you so early on?
Yeah, so some of my buddies, they knew me, they knew what I was capable of. Back in college, I was the guy that threw all these concerts and parties. So, I had a good time growing up. So people still knew me. I did big concerts with Outkast when they were there. Let's see, Little Kim, Too Short, Blow the Whistle. Woo. No, I ain't gonna go there. But I had relationships. The key word there was relationships. They knew who I was, regardless of what I've done in the past. People trusted me enough, and I gave them a greater portion of the deal to get started. And so you start a relationship, people lend you money because they like you. I'm doing real estate deals now, and we're maxed out on what typically a bank should lend us in certain areas. Like combine some of these banks, you will be there. They're going to say, well, we only, as your team, we only should lend you 10 million or 15 million. But then another deal comes and you say, hey, I got this deal, but I know I'm at capacity. I'm going to go to this other place. And they say, you know what? We like you, Mike. We like you, my partner, Nate. We'll do it. Don't worry about it. So the key thing is relationships, talk to people. You have to sell yourself. And I know you don't believe me, but I'm kind of an introvert. I'm a quiet guy. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I had to force myself out to sell it. Back when I had the car wash, business was bad. It was raining for 90 days in a row. I had to drum up business. And I didn't want to go out there, but I went out there and, sorry about that, went out there and sold my business. I sold, and because of that, we were able to increase revenue. You still there?
I'm still here. I'm just listening. I'm still here.
Yep, sorry.
I'm still here.
So sorry about that. So those are the things: sell it, push, and start relationships. And because of those relationships, that's how you begin to grow your investors. You do a great job for them, treat them nice, treat them how you want to be treated, and they'll start returning revenue, and they'll start sending you people. And that's the same way as my Chinese investors. I did them right. They love what they did, and now they're sending me more people.
Right. We're definitely going to get to that Chinese bit. I think that's so fascinating. I cannot even wait to get to that part. So you were doing kind of single family, and then when did you actually make that jump into multifamily? And can you tell us that story? And also, what are the differences that you've seen, from that move from single family to multifamily? From, a variety of aspects. It could mean the relationships, or it could mean just the deal size, or whatever.
So the difference between multifamily and single family, you got a couple more toys you're playing with, right? You got 2 to 4 tenants under a roof when you're starting off small. The one thing I truly enjoyed about is when a unit goes vacant in a multi-unit, your cash flow is still going. That's great. So, you got a mortgage payment, taxes, insurance. You're not losing any money there, at months. When you got a single family, it goes vacant, your cash flow stops. Now, on the other hand, when you do have a single family starting off, it's a little more easier to manage because you only have one tenant you're dealing with versus in a 4-family, you get one bad tenant there. They're just kind of pushing everybody around, and the phone calls will start your phone will start ringing. My first multi-unit, well, really, I started off with multi-units. The first deal I ever did was a 2-family. And that began my career. I started with a 2-family, and I'll never forget, I didn't have any money. I didn't have any credit. So I ended up working 2-3 jobs. I got up about 2 in the morning, delivering newspapers for the local Enquirer, then came home, went to sleep. Then I went to, then I went to my 9-to-5 job as electrical construction. And then my favorite job, to this day, is still my favorite job. I went down to the Red Stadium and the Bengal Stadium. I sold ice cold beer. Got a lot of tips there. And from there, I saved up $3,000. I paid off all my bad debt. I found this 2-family on a land contract. And I used my negotiations. I read from Robert Allen, No Money Down in the 90s. I couldn't really afford the $3,000 down because I needed money to fix the place up. So I negotiated where I give them $1,000 now, and then the rest in installment payments over a 3-month period. And then I would pay the mortgage starting in that second month as well. And within that first 30 days, I went upstairs, didn't know how to paint. Matter of fact, I was upstairs painting and my contractors came and I was like, I'm gonna help. And they told me to go back downstairs because I was that bad. And so I started painting, or I went downstairs, and the next thing you know, 30 days, I turned the place over, got it rented, had upstairs paying $550. I moved my sister in my second bedroom. She paid $200. That was like $750 a month. My mortgage was $750. I'm living rent free. Well, almost, because I got utilities, but that was the beginning of my career. And I did it again. And I kept doing it again over and over again. And next thing you know, it's paying my car payment. Next thing you know, it's paying me a monthly allowance that I could use and start a savings account.
Wow.
And the beginning of it.
Wow. So let's talk about, a bigger deal. So you were, that's kind of how you got started in a small multifamily, just like I started with a duplex myself. What was that first deal like? Can you tell us the big deal? Like, how did you find that deal? And how did you fund it? And funding parts may lead to the Chinese investors that we're going to talk about at the very end. So your first big or large-ish multifamily deal, how did you find it?
My first big deal was a 28 unit. And I used to work for a group called the Model Group. They're a large low-income tax credit group right here in Cincinnati. And they had a realtor's brokerage house as well as an extension. And they knew I was into real estate, and they had a property. They had kind of a nonprofit arm that they worked with, and they had this 28 unit where the low-income tax credit fell off. And it was in the West End, and at the time, the West End was a D property. DF, literally they're shooting every day.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, hey, I got this 28 unit. They need help. There's like 16,000 in reserves. You don't need any money. You want it? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I said, all right. And so it was a 28 unit, 16,000 in reserves. They only had 4 tenants, and it was broken up into 4 different buildings. I went in, and with my own hands, I renovated a lot and turned, and then I started bringing in help. And then I really didn't know about leasing in that area because I knew I needed a subsidy in that area. Like, who wants to be down here? They're shooting every day. And so I started talking to some people, and I knew a person, actually was my neighbor. She did a lot of leasing. She was a property manager, did a lot of leasing in that area. And she was like, just go to these agencies. And then the light bulb clicked. So I went to these agencies. Next thing you know, they throwing me tenants. And I got this deal so cheap. I mean, I end up fixing the whole place up with money from reserves. I got it leased up. And then they said, now you can buy it. And so I was teaching a class, and I had a guy that said, look, if you need some money, or you ever need some money, just call me. And I was like, yeah, right. I called him. He said, yeah. And he wired me the money.
Wow.
And I bought my first 28 unit deal. And it was such a great deal that I could have like 7 or 8 tenants out of 28 that I was making the debt coverage.
Wow.
And from there, they couldn't believe that how I got that place rented with no subsidies, less than desirable area. So then they threw me 100 and something units down in the West End. And then, but it was a challenge because of that, I was stuck doing this. I could only get 1 or 2 flips in a year. So this, I mean, it was great. Don't get me wrong. No money out of pocket, netting 30,000 a year. You add 2 flips, that's 60. But I'm working so hard because this is a challenging neighborhood that eventually I had to get out of it. But that set me to move on to do bigger and better deals. And I'll tell you, when I got to C and B areas, oh my God, I thought I was in heaven, man. I felt like this guy right there. Come on up, man.
I like that. I really like that painting, actually. For those listening again, go check out the video so you can see the painting. I really like that. I really like that story. So talking about raising funds, right?
Yeah.
I know this too well, especially when I was starting out, and even sometime till now, raising money is always a big deal, right? Like especially for those starting out, right? You have been able to tap into the Chinese investor market, which is rather unconventional for a variety of reasons, some of which are obvious, some of which are not so obvious. Go again and watch the video.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
We're having too much fun here. You know, hey, go watch the video if you're listening on iTunes. Yeah, so, you know, tell us, how have you managed to do that? How have you broken into this market, and how is it going for you?
Well, so there's 2 markets. But yeah, the Chinese market, that's, I like to say, I read this book by Harvey McKay, Swim with the Sharks. And they asked him, do you believe in luck? And he said, yeah, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And it was all by chance and God, but one of my buddies had a portfolio of single family houses in a lower income neighborhood. And he was like, hey, Mike. I said, what's up? You ain't gonna believe this, brother. I said, what's happening? I just sold my portfolio. I said, what? To who? and then he said, man, this guy, lady, and gentleman, they bought it. And I was like, well, I need to meet them, man. Because I was like, I got way better product than that. And I was like, there's a few I want to get rid of. And so next thing you know, it was which they're now my good friends. They end up buying some more properties from me, and they wanted to continue to do more. And I said, hey, I need you to stop. Remember, treat others how you want to be treated. I said, look, you can't go at this pace and continue to take down these type of units like that. It'll become unmanageable. But what you can do is, now we're working with larger apartments and larger multi-units. You need to focus on that. And so we started talking with groups, but they were still buying some single family houses. They were bringing in their Chinese investors. By the way, they're Chinese from Shanghai. And so what happens now is, you know, we got a great relationship. We've been hanging for about 1.5 years now at the time. And so now, whenever someone out of the country, you know, that's Asian, it's a small population here. So if somebody's Chinese and they want somebody to speak Mandarin, you know, they're going to call one of our guys. And then depending on what scale they want to play, You say $1 million plus, they say, I got the guy, my brother, Mike Ealy. And next thing you know, we're sitting down, and sometimes I get booted out of the conversation right after Ni Hao. And after that, I'm no longer there. I'm just telling you the terms. But I'm learning. When I go back to Shanghai this year, I'm gonna have Mandarin down.
Yeah, I think you're definitely gonna need that. Yeah, I think Duolingo. I don't know if you know that app. They actually have. I think they have Mandarin on there actually.
Oh, they got that, but I'm gonna tell you one for everybody. If you haven't used Michelle, it's Michael Thomas, but he pronounces Michelle. I don't know if he's French or Latin. I'm not sure, but it's such a unique style of studying. It's not even about memorization and picture. He starts to break down the tones and kind of an out-of-box concept. And like in Mandarin, they have multiple tones. They got like a da, and then a chu, and then a up sound. So, and it's about 5 different tones. But I won't go there, man. We'll
It's
talk.
okay. Yeah. No, it's fascinating to me as well. It's fascinating. So you've got this group of Chinese investors, and then you're kind of off to the races. Just give us, I don't know, a couple of things that you've learned, from these investors, and kind of, when you compare that to other investors, or maybe American investors, what are the things that you've seen, just by dealing with these people? I've seen pictures of you with them. I've seen pictures of you in China. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, well, one thing is the culture, more than anything. I know, I'm there for business and make money, but the culture was so amazing. They treat me like a superstar. I mean, I've never felt, I'm just going to tell you, man, it's beautiful. Like, I don't know if you could tell, but, I'm a brother, I'm a Black guy here. And so, regardless, like, we won't get it, but people sometimes look at you different. And it's a true statement. They question your capacity, and they do it in a subtle way. When I was in China for the first time in my life, I felt like none of that mattered. They truly looked across the table and was like, you're my brother. I couldn't believe it. And before that, I made it there. I felt so naive about the culture. In America, they say Chinese food, and they show you this fried rice and beef, chicken, and shrimp. And I'm like, I went to a Chinese New Year's dinner, and I was like, wait a minute. Y'all got a little flavor here.
Where's General Chow?
Chicken feet, duck tongue, some dumplings. I was like, oh, snap. But no, I mean, man, we have dinner together. Like, they have this round table, and they just keep spinning the food around. And no matter what they just love to eat and host everybody. When they host you, they really take you in. I learned that be more patient. I'm riding around. So Shanghai is almost 30 million people. Just to give you an idea, the state of Ohio has a total of 11 million people. The city alone is 300,000, but the MSA is about 1.5 million. Shanghai's got 30 million right in one city/province. And everywhere you go, per square foot, you got about 90,000 people. Is that right? Something per square mile, about per square mile. And so meeting them, there's no road rage, like a bus about to run you over. And, us, and you have beep, beep, what are you doing? You son? And they just like, it's okay. He's my brother. That's my sister. And even with children, I'm sitting with them. They have so much compassion for people and patience. And if anything more than learning money, I learn that, and I bring that home every time. I'm more patient with my family. I'm more patient with my child. I don't have that road rage. It's like, it's okay. They didn't know,
Wow. Fascinating. I love all this stuff. This is like my wheelhouse. I love that because, initially people like us, especially younger guys like me, is like, wow, I would love to get some Chinese investors, some Japanese investors, and I want to make money and money. I'm
Right.
not saying that's me, but like younger people, but also just understanding that by, having these experiences, like through travel, you're not only, having a better business, but you're also learning about different cultures and becoming a better person that you can bring that home to have a more balanced life. You can make all the money,
Yes.
but if you don't have a wife or kids to spend it with because they're gone, what's the
Oh
point?
man, I tell you, man, with these investors, man, it's just been a amazing ride. Old, young. I mean, I've got to see what investors first, second, and third generation. I've learned where the score comes from. Like the first generation of wealth. They work so hard to get it. And the second generation, that son or daughter, they saw what their mom and dad went through to get it, and so they're a little spoiled, but they get it and understand and respect it. But it's that third generation that now that's grandma, grandpa, and they only got to see a little bit, and nobody told them the story, and then it starts to get out of control, because then you got the uncle and great cousins, and that's when it gets a little different. And so I share that. Just, it's been amazing to learn that. Like, it's just different, man. The business is great, but it's what I've been learning about family, man.
Mm.
Uh, I never forget my. It was a daddy-daughter dance. I know, forgive me, but growing up, we didn't have that. And I never forget. My wife was like, "You need to take your daughter Devin to the daddy-daughter dance." I'm like, "I ain't going to that. I'm gonna be with these daddies, and they just gonna be talking and standing in the corner." Yeah. And I was telling one of my partners, he's the older guy, about 80. He said, "Mike, you don't know what you're missing. It's one of the greatest moments of your life. And you'll see the sparkle in your daughter's eye, and it's just you, one-on-one, and she'll never forget it." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." And I never forget, I went to that daddy-daughter dance because of, him telling me that. And it was amazing. My daughter still loves it today. She still
Wow.
wants to go. Uh, and just, these are some of the great moments. I learned this through investing and
In
dealing
real
with.
estate, it's
I
crazy.
would have never done that. I wouldn't
Yeah,
have.
yeah. I mean, I can definitely chat with you all day long. But we're definitely dwelling into the quick rounds. These are going to be quick questions, quick answers. You ready, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, all right. First question. What, I think you've mentioned it a little bit, but what makes you, Mike, unique? What is that differentiating factor that separates you from the next guy or the next girl?
Man, I always was very different, but it took me a long time to figure that. And it took me till I was older. It was because of my education. I went from private school to public school. I went to a private Catholic. It was Catholic school, so I went there from first through third. So very disciplined, and I liked school. Then third through sixth, I went to a school that was like the melting pot of the city of Cincinnati. You had doctors, lawyers, black, white, Chinese, Japanese, Indian, you name it, they were right there. And wealthy, poor, you name it, all in that class. And then I went to junior high, kind of in the hood. And then I went to my high school. We were ranked probably the third lowest high school in the city. But I thrived through that. I had the opportunity to be a leader there. I was the class president. When people would get in trouble, they would bring me in to talk with the principal, to negotiate on the behalf. And literally by me talking to them, they didn't get suspended, or they got school suspension. And because of that, I met so many different people. I was unique. So I didn't fit in one box, and I was always thinking different. And even then in high school, I knew there was so much money out there. It's fascinated me. I was like, wait a minute, how is there billions of dollars, but yet and still this one or two guys have $1 billion, and then this guy only makes 30 or 40,000. It didn't make sense. So what happened there? Yeah, I met so many different people. I looked at money. I was so fascinated. And so I'll never forget, I went to the library back there. We went to the card catalog. Remember, there was like RMDZZ. You know, I had to search all the way around that library. It wasn't like you just type it in a computer. And so I found a book in the stock market. And at that time, junk bonds were the thing. And I'll never forget, it was said 50,000 was the minimum investment. So I literally put that book back on the shelf. And I don't have no 50,000. I don't even know nobody who got 50,000. I don't know nobody got $100. So I went, and I just by chance I found Robert Allen, No Money Down, in the 90s. And ever since then, I kept thinking about how I'm gonna put some real estate deals together.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And I saw Carlton Sheets, No Money Down, or Getting Money Back at Closing, which it does work, but I would not advise it.
That is a good segue into our next question. So obviously, what was the last, you're an avid reader, I can tell. So what was the last book that you read, and what was the one thing that you picked out from that book?
Oh man. Oh, I can't think of his name. Man, let me see if I can find it. It's this guy. He was the trainer for Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And it talked about being the cooler. It's like 3 different levels, good, great, and killer, right? And it talked about the different levels and how you get there. And it was so amazing on how their thought process was. They pushed themselves to limits that were unheard of. Like literally, you got these highly skilled specimens. This is Michael Jordan. You got Kobe Bryant, and how they come back from injury or force themselves to get to another level. And they push themselves, and literally they work ethics. While everybody else took off, they're still in the gym. They're still working out. They arrive, on a private plane or whatever before the team even gets there. They're out there practicing 4 hours, 5 hours before the game, right when the gym opened, while everybody else is just sitting around in the hotel. I mean, even at that level, they're still working, and they're so confident. They know they're going to beat you, and you don't want to bring that out of them. That's why they call them the Mumbai. I was just so impressed. If I could find that book,
no, I'm sure our team will be able to Google that and find that book. We're gonna have that in the show notes. So definitely last question here. Obviously, you're investors. You're a very busy man. You got a ton going on for you. What do you do for fun?
Oh man, we travel a little bit, man. But really, I'm older now. My greatest fun, I'm not trying to take it away, but I love coaching. I coach football, I coach soccer, lacrosse, and man, I'm coaching my babies. That one's 11, my daughter's 9 and 5. And I sure hate it, but my son was the practice dummy. I didn't know how to coach anything, right? I was like, these coaches are not telling these kids what to do. They just letting them run around. I was like, look, you got to show them a play or something. And so that's how I relax, man. I break away, I coach. But then I do get away at times. But really, the last great time I had, I went to a concert and invited all my friends. We were kind of celebrating. And I brought my mom and my brothers and sisters, and we ended up going to the local Cincinnati Music Festival. And you had everybody, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Bell, Biv DeVoe, even Bobby Brown showed up. I couldn't believe it.
That sounds fun. That sounds fun.
And then the crossover, when I'm in Destin, Florida, they couldn't believe it, right? It was like, I'm sitting in the pool and it's this black guy, and you got all these other white people around. And then it's like, oh, he's just gonna be playing all that hip hop. And then next thing you know, I'm playing Led Zeppelin, Greatest Essentials. We're playing, what is the other one? I play them all, man. I got them all, man. I'm the king of karaoke as well when we go on a cruise ship. Yes, I am. I've won a couple of awards.
Nice. Well, I mean,
not for my singing. I just want to. It's not because I can sing.
Mike,
I give a great show.
I bet. I can only imagine. I mean, thank you for taking the time out to talk to us at the Dwelling Show. If there's a Dwell listener listening in thinking, oh my goodness, I like what Mike is doing, or maybe I'm in the Cincinnati market or anywhere else in the country and just wants to connect with you. In fact, we have listenership all over Asia, actually. So if there's somebody thinking of, getting connected with you, what's the best place people can reach out to you?
I'm gonna give you 3. So you can reach me at Mike Ealy, E-A-L-Y, at LinkedIn. You can find me on Bigger Pockets, Michael Ealy. But the best way is www.nassauinvest.com. That's Nassau invest, INVESTS.com. And please check in. We got a book coming out soon. It's called Broke to 1,000 Units, where I share all my stories, and hopefully we can inspire other people and how the intricacies that how to analyze deals and all the things I went through. So maybe you won't have to go through them. Hopefully you just shoot up like a star and it won't take you 15 years of going from broke and back up. But I'm telling you, it's a great ride. I wouldn't change it for anything. It's done so much for me and my family. I mean, because of what's happening, I mean, I paid my mom's house off, man. It was a touching moment, man. So I'm just sharing these because this is what it's done for me and my family, and I hope it could do more for yours. And even if you're interested in being a passive investor or active investor, this is why I do it, so we can share the wealth and so that you can do the same for your family, so that you can increase your wealth so you can pay for your kids' college, or maybe you're an international investor and you want to come to the U.S., or maybe you just want to take a retirement fund and put it together. We're here to help you, and however we can do it, and let's have fun doing it. I don't like being boring. Let's have fun making money and doing a lot of deals.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate your time today.
All right. Thank you, Dantas. I appreciate it, man.